Reverend Boudreaux was the part-time pastor of the local Cajun Baptist church, and Reverend Thibodeau was the minister of the Covenant Church across the road. Both men were standing by the road, pounding a sign into the ground that read, "The end is near. Turn yourself around now before it be too late." As a car sped past them, the driver leaned out the window and yelled, "You religious nuts!" From the curve, they heard a tire screeching and a big splash. Boudreaux turns to Thibodeau and says, "Do you think maybe the sign should just say, 'Bridge out'?" It's stories like this one that remind me of my childhood in Southwest Louisiana. Delicious food, Mardi Gras bayous, and down-to-earth people that would give you the shirts off their backs. This January, I had the opportunity to attend the American Farm Bureau Convention, where I met with many dedicated members of the American Farm Bureau. My day at the convention consisted of my team and I working the John Deere booth and repeating the same couple of sentences. "Hi, would you like a free John Deere hat?" "No, sir, I'm sorry. That monitor is not touchscreen." And of course, our spiel about the John Deere Foundation and the American Farm Bureau, which are both great contributors to the FFA. The booth attracted a wide array of people, ranging from different ages, ethnicities, and backgrounds. And I had the opportunity to speak with one individual whose critique of Louisiana truly stood out to me. She began by thanking me for Louisiana's acceptance of tourists. And she continued by saying how she appreciates Louisiana putting kindness into everyday life. And then she continues by saying how she had never been to a place where she hadn't had to open a door for herself as others would voluntarily do it for her. And how she got 10 smiles in an hour, and how before she stepped foot in Louisiana, she'd never been to a place where she knew the locals felt like they could do anything in their power to help someone in need. And there was one word this individual described that truly stood out to me when describing Louisiana: kindness. But Louisiana isn't the only thing that reminds me of what kindness means. This one individual has inspired me to always be humble and optimistic. My Aunt Katie was the most genuine person I'd known. And there was one thing that she told me that I'll never forget: to never let anyone, anything, or any circumstance stand in the way of being my true self. And I've actually got a funny story to tell you guys. My best friend, Nevaeh, and I are only 5 months apart, and we happen to be first cousins. Since Nevaeh and I have a huge history together, we have many, many stories. And there's one story I can remember my Aunt Katie always telling me back when she and Nevaeh lived with my parents and I when we were toddlers. She would tell me that in the mornings, she would wake up and she could hear my little feet running down the stairs. She would jump out of bed and run to the door just in time to open it, boot me right on the forehead, and stop me from waking sleeping Nevaeh. You see, back when I was younger, I liked to talk a lot. And many people will say that that quality of mine has not strayed far from me. Being that I like to talk so much, I always tried to speak for Nevaeh. And I can remember my dad telling this story multiple times, how when Nevaeh wanted some milk, I spoke up and made sure my girl got some milk. But hearing this story, as I got older, and especially around people I wasn't comfortable with, I started to feel insecure, as if I was too headstrong and loud. But my Aunt Katie would reassure me that that wasn't the case. She would tell me that even from a young age, she could tell I had such a kind soul, and that I was only being loud and bold to help other people and to make them smile. But another thing about my Aunt Katie is that everyone knew her, and I mean everyone. One of my favorite teachers, Ms. Benoit, actually got the opportunity to teach and know her. Ms. Benoit would sit me down and tell me stories about how Katie radiated positivity in high school. This helped Ms. Benoit and I form a friendship and such a beautiful bond. And Ms. Benoit recently told me a story that I feel I could share to you guys today. She told me how a couple years ago, she got a letter from a student who had graduated, but a student she had never met. You see, every morning in the halls, Ms. Benoit would walk to the office and offer everyone a good morning and a how was your day, followed with a smile. This routine eventually became habit for Ms. Benoit. Upon reading the letter, she realized that this was a thank you note from the graduate. At first she was confused, and so was I, but the more she read, the more it made sense. The student continued by thanking my teacher, saying that in high school, she had contemplated suicide, and that in this dark moment, my teacher was thought of. Curiosity got the best of Miss Benwell, and the more she read, the more it made sense to both of us. She continued by thanking my teacher for her daily simple greetings, knowing that if anything were to happen, when thinking of one person who would truly notice if she was gone, she knew Miss Benwell would. Miss Benwell was telling me the story, and chills raced across my body. And then Miss Benwell pointed out one thing that everyone can still hear today, that a simple act of kindness has the potential to make a huge difference. A few weeks later, I was suddenly reminded of Miss Benwell's story. I was watching tasty videos on my phone. You know the ones on Facebook. You know, your girl can't cook, but boy, does she dream. So I was just following my daily routine after school, watching tasty videos on my phone and Gilmore Girls on my Roku. And after learning how to make fluffy pancakes and how to season my cast iron pot, I came across this video of Lady Gaga. And I was like, Gaga? Who doesn't love Gaga? Let's see what this is about. I realized Lady Gaga was speaking at a mayoral conference. She was the keynote speaker. Her message went a little something like this. She starts off by saying how there's this evil throughout the world. And what this evil likes to do is it likes to take society and break us up into groups. So once this evil has us into cliques, gay, fat, Republican, smart, the list goes on, it then starts to influence one group to start pointing fingers at another, trying to find the evil, while the real evil is slowly creeping past everybody. And Lady Gaga continues by saying that there is one quality every human being possesses, one thing we can assure everyone has, and that quality is kindness. And she continues by saying that this quality is the one thing we must use to help strengthen and rebuild mankind, and that it must come first. And then you see there it was again. It's so small and so simple that it goes unnoticed most of the time. Like the member of the American Farm Bureau telling me how she appreciates Louisiana and our kindness. And my aunt always telling me these stories with the word kind, but I never noticed until I had to stop and think about them after she was gone. My teacher sharing a random heartfelt story to me, and then Facebook sharing Lady Gaga's wisdom. William Penn once said, "I shall only pass through this way but once. Therefore, be any good deed or any kindness I can show to a fellow being, let it be now, and not let me defer nor neglect it, for I shall only pass this way but once." Louisiana FFA, if I was to challenge you to do one thing for your entire life, not for a day, not for a week, but for your entire life, it would be to help me spread the one thing we can assure every human being possesses, the one quality we know everyone has in them. Louisiana FFA, help me spread a single act of kindness.